the evolution of mammals as we understand it. The story of mammal evolution is one of the most extraordinary transformations in the entire history of life on Earth. Today, mammals dominate nearly every major ecosystem on the planet, from deep oceans to freezing polar regions, from deserts to dense rainforests. Humans, whales, bats, elephants, tigers, all belong to this incredibly successful lineage. But mammals didn't appear suddenly. They were shaped through one of the longest evolutionary transitions in vertebrate evolution, a gradual transformation from reptile-like ancestors into warm-blooded, highly adaptable animals capable of complex behavior, parental care, and advanced physiological control. This is the story of mammalian evolution, the story of how a small lineage survived mass extinction and eventually came to dominate the modern world. Welcome to the evolution of mammals, as we understand it. The origin of mammals begins deep in the Paleozoic era, during the late Carboniferous period, more than 300 million years ago. At that time, Earth was dominated by ancient amphibians and early reptilian forms. Among these early vertebrates appeared a remarkable evolutionary group known as the synapsids. These were not true mammals yet, but they represented the ancestral group of mammals. What made synapsids different was a unique skull structure, a single temporal opening behind the eye socket, known as the synapsid skull condition. This temporal opening in skull allowed stronger jaw muscles and more efficient biting force. It may sound like a small anatomical feature, but in evolutionary biology, tiny structural changes can completely reshape the future of life. The early synapsids are often called synapsid reptiles or mammal-like reptiles, although technically they were their own evolutionary branch. These organisms marked the beginning of the reptile to mammal transition, one of the most important evolutionary transitions in animal evolution. Over millions of years, synapsids diversified during the Permian period, and among them emerged a far more advanced lineage known as the therapsids. Therapsids were revolutionary. They began developing features that looked increasingly mammalian. Their limbs shifted from sprawling sideways positions toward more upright limbs, improving movement efficiency and respiration. Their teeth became specialized and differentiated. Instead of identical conical teeth, they evolved heterodont dentition, incisors, canines, and molars adapted for different functions. This was a major step in mammalian adaptations, because differentiated teeth allowed better food processing, more efficient digestion, and greater ecological flexibility. Therapsids also developed a secondary palate, allowing them to breathe while chewing food simultaneously, a key feature linked to higher metabolism and improved respiration and circulation. 5 systems and metabolism changes everything. Scientists believe many advanced therapsids were beginning to develop endothermy, the ability to regulate internal body temperature. In other words, the early stages of warm-blooded animals were beginning to emerge. This ability for body temperature regulation gave enormous survival advantages. Instead of relying entirely on external temperatures like many reptiles, these animals could remain active in colder conditions and during nighttime, and that opened new ecological opportunities. Among the therapsids evolved an even more advanced group called the cynodonts. The cynodonts were incredibly important in mammalian lineage evolution because they possessed some of the clearest mammalian traits yet seen in the fossil evolution evidence. Their bodies likely carried early fur development or whisker-like sensory hairs. Their jaws became more refined. 5. Their posture improved further. Their metabolism likely became increasingly endothermic. And perhaps most importantly, their skull and jaw structure began undergoing one of the strangest anatomical transformations in vertebrate evolution, the jaw bones to ear bones transformation. In early synapsids and reptiles, several bones formed the lower jaw. But during mammalian evolution, some of these bones gradually reduced in size and migrated toward the middle ear. Eventually, they became the 3 famous middle ear bones of mammals: the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. This transformation dramatically improved hearing sensitivity, especially for high-frequency sounds. And for small nocturnal mammals living in dangerous ecosystems filled with predators, better hearing could mean survival. By the late Triassic period, around 225 million years ago, the first true mammals finally appeared. One of the earliest known examples was Morganucodon. Morganucodon was small, nocturnal, and insectivorous. At first glance, it may have resembled a tiny shrew-like creature hiding beneath the feet of giant dinosaurs. But biologically, it represented a massive evolutionary breakthrough. These late Triassic mammals already possessed many recognizable mammalian features: fur for insulation, advanced heterodont dentition, efficient respiration and circulation systems, endothermy and temperature control mechanisms, and likely mammary glands used for nourishing offspring. B5 parental care in mammals also became increasingly important during this stage of life history evolution. Instead of producing massive numbers of offspring with little investment, mammals evolved strategies focused on survival, protection, and nurturing of fewer young. This shift toward complex behavior in mammals would later become one of the greatest strengths of the group. But despite these innovations, early mammals lived in the shadow of dinosaurs for over 150 million years. B5 dinosaurs dominated most major ecosystems throughout the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. Mammals remained relatively small and mostly nocturnal mammals, surviving quietly in ecological niches that larger reptiles rarely occupied. And then, everything changed. Approximately 66 million years ago, the Cretaceous extinction event triggered one of the most devastating mass extinctions in Earth's evolutionary history. The non-avian dinosaurs disappeared, entire ecosystem collapsed, global environments transformed. But mammals survived. Why? Partly because their small body size required fewer resources, partly because endothermy allowed greater environmental flexibility, and partly because mammalian adaptability made survival easier during rapidly changing conditions. This moment triggered one of the most dramatic examples of adaptive radiation in Earth's history, with dinosaur extinction opening ecological space across the planet. Mammals diversified rapidly into countless forms and lifestyles. This process is known as mammalian adaptive radiation. Some evolved into monotremes, the egg-laying mammals. The platypus remains one of the strangest surviving examples of this ancient lineage, 5 combining reptilian traits with unmistakable mammalian characteristics. Others evolved into marsupials, pouched mammals such as the kangaroo, where offspring continued development inside specialized pouches after birth. And eventually, placental mammals emerged and diversified into the dominant mammalian groups we know today. Whales returned to the oceans, bats conquered the skies. Primates developed advanced cognition, large herbivores reshaped grassland ecosystems. Predators evolved specialized hunting adaptations. This mammalian diversification transformed global ecosystems. Today, modern mammals dominate terrestrial ecosystems largely because of several key evolutionary advantages: efficient physiology, 5 advanced nervous systems, complex social behavior, parental care, temperature control mechanisms, flexible diets, and remarkable ecosystem adaptation abilities. Mammalian success was not based on size alone. It was based on physiological efficiency and adaptability. Their internal systems, digestion, respiration, circulation, and temperature regulation became incredibly refined. Less energy waste, more sustained activity, greater survival potential. And unlike many earlier vertebrate groups, mammals evolved high levels of learning, memory, communication, and behavioral flexibility. In evolutionary history, adaptability often matters more than raw strength. The fossil record preserved through paleontology continues to reveal this extraordinary journey in stunning detail. From primitive synapsids of the Carboniferous period to advanced cynodonts of the Triassic, scientists studying fossil evolution evidence continue uncovering how small anatomical transitions eventually produce the mammalian dominance seen in 5 present-day ecosystem dominance, This evolutionary transition also demonstrates something fundamental about the history of life. Major biological revolutions rarely happen instantly. They happen gradually, feature by feature, generation by generation. The evolution of mammals was not a sudden event. It was a long chain of evolutionary experimentations spanning hundreds of millions of years. From synapsids to therapsids to cynodonts to the first true mammals, a continuous story written across deep geological time. And perhaps the most fascinating part of this story is that mammals carry traces of that ancient past even today. Our middle ear bones still preserve evidence of ancient reptilian jaw structures. Our body temperature regulation reflects ancient endothermic evolution. Our parental care strategies reveal survival mechanisms shaped over millions of years. Even humans are part of this mammalian lineage, a tiny branch connected to a vast evolutionary tree stretching back to the Permian world. The evolution of vertebrates is ultimately a story of adaptation, extinction and survival, and relentless biological innovation. And mammals represent one of evolution's greatest success stories, not because they were always dominant. 5. But because they adapted when the world changed. From small nocturnal insectivorous mammals hiding beneath dinosaurs to the most widespread and behaviorally complex animals on Earth, the story of mammalian evolution is a reminder that survival in nature does not belong to the strongest alone. It belongs to the most adaptable. If you enjoyed this deep dive into evolutionary biology, paleontology, and the evolutionary history of life, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more explorations into the hidden history of our planet and the incredible story of life on Earth.